The evening rush at Bellini's was in full swing. Crystal glasses clinked against fine china, muted conversations blended with soft laughter, and the smell of expensive perfume mixed with the aroma of gourmet dishes. Through it all, a young woman named Lily moved quietly between tables, balancing trays with practiced ease. "Another bottle of the '96 Bordeaux for table 12, she murmured to the bartender as she passed, her voice almost lost in the elegant buzz of the restaurant. No one watching Lily would guess that her fingers, now carefully arranging silverware and folding napkins, had once danced across piano keys at some of the most prestigious music academies in the country. Those days felt like a distant dream now, buried beneath the practical reality of making rent and paying off the student loans that remained from her unfinished education. Lily paused near the corner of the dining room where a glossy black grand piano sat untouched. The restaurant owner kept it more as a showpiece than an instrument, hiring pianists only for special events. In the 3 months she'd worked at Bellini's, Lily had never once let on that she could play. Her co-workers knew her as the reliable waitress who picked up extra shifts without complaint, not as the once promising musician who had been headed for concert halls before life took an unexpected turn. "Order up for table 7, called the head chef, and Lily turned away from the piano, tucking loose strands of hair behind her ear as she hurried back to work. "Girl, you look like you're about to fall over," said Rita, an older waitress who had taken Lily under her wing. "How many doubles have you worked this week?" Lily smiled tiredly. "Just 4. I'm fine, really." "You're young now, but you can't keep pushing yourself like this forever," Rita said, lowering her voice as a group of well-dressed businessmen were seated nearby. "What are you saving up for, anyway? Secret vacation? New car?" Lily shook her head. "Piano lessons for my little sister. She's got real talent and I don't want her to." She stopped herself. "I just want to give her a chance." Before Rita could respond, the restaurant manager, Mr. Powell, appeared beside them, straightening his tie nervously. "The Henderson party just arrived. They've reserved the private dining room and specifically requested live music with their meal." His eyes darted around the restaurant as if a pianist might materialize from thin air. "Our regular guy is stuck in traffic across town. Might not make it at all." Rita clicked her tongue. "The Hendersons? Aren't they those big-shot record label people?" Mr. Powell nodded, looking increasingly stressed. "They're here with some important clients. Very important clients." Lily kept her eyes down, arranging dessert forks with careful precision. Her heart had begun to beat a little faster at the mention of music, but she pushed the feeling away. That wasn't her life anymore. "Maybe we could play some recorded music until—" Mr. Powell began, but was cut off by Rita. "Why don't you ask Lily? She played in school or something, right?" Lily's head snapped up, her cheeks flushing as Mr. Powell turned to look at her with sudden interest. "You play piano?" he asked, his tone a mixture of surprise and desperate hope. "I used to," Lily admitted, shooting Rita a look. "It was a long time ago." "How long?" Mr. Powell pressed. Lily hesitated. 3 years since I've played regularly. I had to leave the conservatory when my mom got sick." Mr. Powell frowned, clearly calculating the risks. "The Hendersons are our biggest clients. If they're not happy—" "I shouldn't have said anything," Lily said quickly. "I'm really rusty and—" "Can you play something?" "Anything. Just until the regular pianist arrives?" The desperation in Mr. Powell's voice was clear. Lily felt her palms begin to sweat. The idea of sitting at a piano again, especially in front of people who knew music, really knew music, made her stomach knot. But somewhere beneath the anxiety was a tiny flicker of something else. Longing. "I can try," she heard herself say, "but I can't promise it will be any good." Mr. Powell looked like he might hug her. "Just keep them entertained. Nothing flashy needed. Classical background music. You know the type." Before she could change her mind, Lily found herself following Mr. Powell toward the private dining room, her heart hammering against her ribs. As they walked, he gave her a quick once-over. "Maybe take off the apron at least," he suggested, and Lily untied it with trembling fingers. The private dining room was separated from the main restaurant by heavy curtains. Inside, about 20 people in expensive suits and dresses mingled, champagne flutes in hand. The lighting was dim and flattering, casting a warm glow over the scene. And there, in the corner, was a smaller version of the main room's grand piano. "Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Powell announced with forced cheerfulness, while we await our regular pianist who is unfortunately delayed in traffic. One of our staff has kindly offered to provide some music for your enjoyment. A few heads turned, expressions ranging from indifference to mild curiosity. Lily felt painfully aware of her waitress uniform, the comfortable black shoes chosen for long shifts on her feet rather than performance attire. As Mr. Powell slipped away, Lily approached the piano. Up close, she could see it was well maintained despite its occasional use. She sat down slowly, the bench feeling both foreign and familiar beneath her. For a moment, she simply stared at the keys, ivory and ebony stretching out before her like an old friend she wasn't sure would still remember her. The room continued its buzz of conversation, no one paying particular attention to the waitress at the piano. Lily took a deep breath and placed her fingers on the keys. The first notes were hesitant, a simple melody from her childhood lessons. Her fingers felt stiff, unpracticed, but as she continued to play, something began to awaken inside her. Muscle memory took over, and her hands remembered what her conscious mind had tried to forget. She transitioned into a gentle Debussy piece, one that had always calmed her nerves before competitions. The familiar pattern soothed her racing heart, and she closed her eyes, letting herself be carried by the music. It wasn't perfect, she missed notes here and there, and her timing wasn't as precise as it once had been, but the essence of the piece flowed through her. When she opened her eyes again, she realized her breathing had slowed and her shoulders had relaxed. The music continued to flow, and for the first time in years, Lily felt a sense of rightness wash over her. This was what she had been born to do. A waiter entered with appetizers, and Lily, not wanting to draw attention, smoothly transitioned to something softer, more background appropriate. She was surprised to find she remembered so many pieces, stored away in some untouched corner of her mind. As she played, Lily allowed herself to glance around the room. The guests continued their conversations, but occasionally someone would pause, glass halfway to lips, and look over at the piano with a momentary expression of pleasure before returning to their discussion. One man in particular, seated at the head of the table, seemed to be listening more intently than the others. He was older, with silver hair and a thoughtful expression. Every so often, Lily noticed him tilting his head slightly in her direction, his conversation with his dinner companion apparently forgotten for seconds at a time. For nearly 45 minutes, Lily played continuously, moving from one piece to another, sometimes improvising when her memory failed. Her fingers began to ache pleasantly, muscles long unused being called back into service. Despite the initial nervousness, she found herself enjoying the feeling of the keys beneath her fingers, the way the music filled the elegant room. Mr. Powell appeared in the doorway, giving her a subtle thumbs up. The regular pianist must have arrived. Lily brought her current piece to a natural conclusion and stood up quietly, ready to slip back to her regular duties. To her surprise, the silver-haired man at the head of the table looked up as she rose. "That was lovely," he said, his voice carrying across the room. "Thank you." Lily felt her face grow warm. "You're welcome, sir," she replied softly, then made her way out of the room as unobtrusively as possible. Back in the kitchen, Rita was waiting with wide eyes. "Well, how was it?" Lily realized she was smiling. "It was good, really good. Mr. Powell said you did great. The Hendersons didn't even notice when the regular guy took over." Rita studied her face. "You've got a look I haven't seen before." "What look?" "Like you just remembered something important you'd forgotten." Lily laughed softly, but the words hit home. Standing by the industrial dishwasher, still in her waitress uniform with the night's busiest hours ahead, she felt something that had been dormant for years stirring back to life. "Maybe I did," she said, picking up her apron and tying it around her waist. She flexed her fingers, still feeling the phantom sensation of the piano keys. But right now, Table 9 needs their check. As she pushed through the swinging doors back into the dining room, Lily caught sight of the grand piano in the corner. For the first time since she'd started working at Bellini's, she didn't look away. Instead, she allowed herself a moment of acknowledgement, a nod to both what had been and what might still be. Then she turned her attention back to the evening's work, carrying the memory of those moments at the piano like a secret treasure, tucked away but no longer forgotten. 2 weeks passed, and Lily found herself thinking about the piano more and more. She caught herself tapping rhythms on the edge of trays, her fingers moving of their own accord during quiet moments. Sometimes she'd wake up with melodies in her head that hadn't visited her dreams in years. Earth to Lily. Rita waved a hand in front of her face. You've been staring at that reservation list for 5 minutes. Everything okay? Lily blinked, coming back to the present. Sorry, just tired, I guess. Rita didn't look convinced. You've been different since you played for the Henderson party. Good different, but definitely not just tired. Before Lily could respond, Mr. Powell appeared, looking unusually formal in a pressed suit instead of his regular button-down. Good news, everyone, he announced to the staff gathered for pre-shift meeting. The restaurant has been selected to host the annual Westridge Foundation dinner next Friday night. A murmur ran through the group. The Westridge Foundation was known for supporting arts education in the city. Their annual fundraiser attracted wealthy donors, local celebrities, and, according to rumors, even a few genuine stars. This is a massive opportunity for Bellinis, Mr. Powell continued. They specifically mentioned our elegant atmosphere and excellent service in their selection criteria. He looked around at the staff with unusual intensity. I need everyone at their absolute best. The guest list includes some of the most influential people in the city. As the meeting broke up and everyone dispersed to their stations, Mr. Powell called out, Lily, a word please, she approached, wondering if she'd done something wrong. Her mind raced through recent shifts, trying to remember any mistakes or customer complaints. Mr. Henderson called me personally about the Westridge event, Mr. Powell said, straightening his already perfect tie. Apparently he was quite impressed by your piano playing at his dinner. Lily felt her cheeks warm. He asked if you would be willing to play again. For the Westridge dinner. The words hung in the air between them. Lily's heart seemed to skip several beats. But you have your regular pianist, she said finally. Mr. Henderson was quite specific. Mr. Powell looked uncomfortable, like someone unused to having his regular plans disrupted. He said there was something refreshing about your playing. I gather he's a close friend of the Westridge board chairperson. Lily's mouth felt dry. I'm not sure I'm ready for something like that. It's been years since I've practiced regularly, and that audience will be expecting professional quality. They're expecting a nice dinner with background music, Mr. Powell corrected. Nothing more, and he hesitated, then added reluctantly, there's a bonus in it for you. $200 for the evening, on top of your regular wages. $200. That was nearly half of what Lily needed for her sister Zoe's next month of piano lessons. The thought of her little sister practicing diligently on their mother's old upright piano made the decision easier than it might have been. Okay, she said. I'll do it. Excellent. Mr. Powell looked relieved. You'll need to put together about 3 hours of material. Nothing too showy, just elegant background music. And Lily? His expression softened slightly. Get some practice in beforehand, all right? The restaurant has a reputation to maintain. In the days that followed, Lily found herself torn between excitement and terror. After her shift each night, she would stop by the community center near her apartment, where they allowed residents to use the old piano in the recreation room. The instrument was nothing like the gleaming grand at Bellini's. It was slightly out of tune, with a sticky B-flat key, but it was better than nothing. Her fingers were stiff at first, protesting the sudden return to regular practice after years of neglect. But by the third night, something began to shift. Her hands remembered their old patterns, and music that had once been as natural to her as breathing began to flow more easily. I didn't know you could play like that, said the night janitor, who had paused in the hallway to listen. It was nearly midnight, and Lily hadn't realized anyone else was in the building. I used to be better, she admitted, flexing her sore fingers. Sounds pretty good to me, he said with a shrug. Got a big performance coming up. Just a dinner at the restaurant where I work. Lily closed the piano lid gently. Nothing serious. But as the night of the Westridge dinner approached, it began to feel very serious indeed. Lily found herself lying awake, mentally running through pieces, wondering if she should stick to safe classics or risk including some of the more interesting arrangements she'd been working on. You look like you're about to jump out of your skin, Rita observed as they prepared the dining room on Friday afternoon. The regular tables had been removed, replaced by round tables with elegant centerpieces. The lighting had been adjusted to create an even more intimate atmosphere than usual. Just nervous, Lily admitted. About playing the piano? You've done it before, not for 3 hours, not for people who might actually be listening. Lily arranged the last of the water glasses, making sure each was perfectly aligned. Rita patted her shoulder. Just pretend they're all wearing ridiculous underwear. Despite herself, Lily laughed. That's terrible advice. Works for public speaking. Rita winked. Now go get changed. Mr. Powell left something for you in the staff room. In the small staff changing area, Lily found a garment bag with her name on it. Inside was a simple black dress, modest but elegant, with a note from Mr. Powell. More appropriate than the uniform. Your size, I hope. Deduct from bonus if needed. The dress fit well enough. A bit loose in some places, snug in others, but far better than her waitress outfit. Lily changed quickly, then spent a few minutes trying to do something with her hair, finally settling for pinning it back simply. When she emerged, the restaurant was already filling with guests in evening wear. Men in tailored suits and women in cocktail dresses mingled near the bar, while staff circulated with trays of appetizers. The piano had been moved to a more central location, positioned so that the musician could be seen but wouldn't dominate the room. You clean up nice, Rita said, passing by with a tray of champagne flutes. Good luck. Lily made her way to the piano, feeling oddly exposed without her familiar uniform. A few guests glanced at her curiously as she took her seat, but most continued their conversations, paying little attention to the young woman at the instrument. The keys felt cool and smooth beneath her fingertips. Lily took a deep breath, centering herself, then began to play. She started with Debussy's Clair de Lune, a piece she had played countless times, one that felt like putting on a comfortable old sweater. The gentle, flowing melody spread through the room, barely noticeable at first beneath the buzz of conversation. As she played, Lily kept her focus on the music, trying not to think about the crowd or who might be listening. The piece came to its delicate conclusion, and without pause she transitioned into a Chopin nocturne, letting one piece flow naturally into the next. By the time dinner was served, Lily had fallen into a comfortable rhythm, moving between classical pieces and more modern compositions, adjusting the mood and tempo to match the energy of the room. When conversation grew louder, she chose more spirited pieces. When it quieted during the main course, she shifted to softer, more contemplative music. During a brief pause while she took a sip of water, Lily allowed herself to scan the room. The guests seemed to be enjoying themselves, though few appeared to be actively listening to her playing. That was fine. She was there to provide atmosphere, not to be the center of attention. Then her eyes fell on a table near the center of the room. A woman with silver-streaked dark hair was watching her intently, head slightly tilted. There was something in her expression, a focused attention that made Lily's heart beat a little faster. Next to the woman sat a familiar face, the silver-haired man from the Henderson dinner. He leaned over to say something to his companion, and they both looked at Lily with unmistakable interest. Lily quickly turned back to the piano, feeling a flush creep up her neck. For the next piece, almost without thinking, she chose something more challenging, a Rachmaninoff prelude she had once performed at a student recital. Her fingers moved more deliberately now, shaping each phrase with renewed care. When she reached the climactic section, she realized that the room had grown somewhat quieter. A few more heads had turned in her direction. The silver-haired man and his companion were still watching, their dinner momentarily forgotten. Lily finished the piece and immediately shifted to something lighter, not wanting to draw too much attention. But as the evening progressed, she found herself gradually including more complex, interesting selections, pieces she loved. Not just background music. During dessert, Mr. Powell appeared at her side with a glass of water. "How are you holding up?" he asked quietly. "Fine," Lily said, surprised to realize it was true. Despite playing for nearly 2 hours, her hands weren't tired. If anything, they felt more alive than they had in years. "The chairperson of the Westridge Foundation asked about you," Mr. Powell said, his tone casual but his expression anything but. "Apparently she studied piano at Juilliard before going into arts administration." Lily's fingers faltered momentarily on the keys. "The woman with the silver in her hair?" Mr. Powell nodded. "Dr. Chen. She organizes their scholarship program for young musicians." He gave Lily a meaningful look. "Keep doing whatever you're doing. They seem impressed." As he walked away, Lily took a deep breath. For the first time that evening, she closed her eyes completely, shutting out the room and the guests and everything except the music. Under her hands, the piano began to sing in earnest. She played a piece she had written herself years ago, during her time at the conservatory, a composition that had won her a departmental award, but that she had never performed publicly outside of school. It was more complex than anything else she had played that night, with challenging runs and emotional depth that required complete concentration. The room grew quieter still. Lily didn't notice. She was lost in the music, in the joy of creation rediscovered. For those minutes, she wasn't a waitress playing background music for rich donors. She was simply a musician, doing what she had been born to do. When the final notes faded, there was a moment of complete silence. Lily opened her eyes to find many faces turned toward her, expressions ranging from surprise to appreciation. At the central table, Dr. Chen was leaning forward slightly, her dinner completely forgotten. The spell broke as someone began to applaud, and others quickly joined in. Embarrassed, Lily nodded briefly in acknowledgement, then smoothly transitioned into a gentle jazz standard, trying to return to her role as background musician. But something had shifted in the room, and something had shifted within her too. As the Westridge Foundation dinner came to a close, Lily played a final gentle piece, her fingers light on the keys. Guests were saying their goodbyes, collecting coats, and exchanging business cards. The evening had been a success, at least from what Lily could tell. The food had been praised, wine glasses had been kept full, and the atmosphere had remained elegant throughout. "Miss?" Lily looked up from the piano to find Dr. Chen standing beside her, the silver-haired man from the Henderson party just behind her. "Your playing is extraordinary," Dr. Chen said. There was a directness to her gaze that made Lily sit up straighter, particularly that original composition. "Did you study formally?" Lily's hand stilled on the keys. "Yes, for a while. At Eastman Conservatory, under Professor Williams." The silver-haired man stepped forward, extending his hand. "I'm Robert Henderson. We weren't properly introduced at my dinner party." Lily shook his hand, surprised. "You know Professor Williams?" "I serve on the board at Eastman," Mr. Henderson explained. "Elena, Dr. Chen and I were just discussing how unusual it is to hear such refined playing in a restaurant setting." Lily felt heat rising to her cheeks. "I'm just filling in. The regular pianist is much more—" "I'd be interested in hearing more of your work," Dr. Chen interrupted gently. She reached into a small clutch purse and pulled out a business card. "The Westridge Foundation has a small performance series for emerging artists. We provide a venue, promotion, and a modest honorarium." Lily stared at the card, not reaching for it. "I don't perform anymore." "Not really. I had to leave school before finishing my degree." "Yet you're performing now," Dr. Chen observed, "and quite beautifully. This is different. It's just background music." Mr. Henderson's eyes crinkled at the corners. "That piece you played, your composition, that wasn't background music. That was an announcement. An announcement that someone with a genuine voice has something to say." He nodded toward the card still in Dr. Chen's hand. "You should take that." Lily hesitated, then accepted the card. "Thank you, but I have responsibilities. My job here, my family." "Just think about it," Dr. Chen said. "Our spring showcase is in 4 months. Plenty of time to prepare." She gave a small smile. "And we pay our artists properly." As they walked away, Lily slipped the card into the pocket of her borrowed dress, trying to make sense of what had just happened. The idea of performing, really performing, on a proper stage for an audience that came specifically to listen, sent a shiver of both longing and fear through her. Well? Rita appeared, already changed back into street clothes. "Making friends with the fancy folks?" Lily laughed, a bit shakily. "Something like that. Mr. Powell is over the moon. Says the Westridge people want to book regular events here." Rita wiggled her eyebrows. "And rumor has it they specifically mentioned the excellent musical entertainment." "They were just being nice. Nice people don't donate millions to arts programs," Rita pointed out. "They looked pretty serious to me." Later that night, after the restaurant had emptied and the staff had cleaned up, Mr. Powell called Lily into his office. He looked tired but pleased, his tie loosened and jacket discarded. "The event was a tremendous success," he said without preamble, "and your playing was a significant factor." He opened a desk drawer and pulled out an envelope. "Your bonus, as promised. plus a little extra to cover the dress. Lily took the envelope, feeling the weight of the cash inside. Thank you. I'm glad it worked out. Mr. Powell leaned back in his chair. Dr. Chen asked if you'd be available to play regularly. Not every night, but for special events. He tapped his fingers on the desk. I could adjust your schedule, give you fewer serving shifts. We'd work out a fair rate for the performances. The offer hung in the air. 6 months ago, even 1 month ago, Lily would have jumped at the chance for easier work and potentially better pay. But now with Dr. Chen's card burning a hole in her pocket, she found herself hesitating. Can I think about it? She asked. Mr. Powell looked surprised. Of course, but don't think too long. This kind of opportunity doesn't come around often in the restaurant business. On her way home, crammed into the late-night bus, Lily pulled out Dr. Chen's card. The simple cream-colored rectangle felt impossibly heavy in her hand. Dr. Elena Chen, Executive Director, Westridge Foundation for the Arts. Below that, a phone number and email address. At her apartment, a small one-bedroom she shared with her sister Zoe, Lily quietly let herself in. It was well past midnight and she expected Zoe to be asleep. Instead, she found her 16-year-old sister sitting at their small kitchen table, a mug of tea in her hands. You're up late, Lily said, setting down her bag. Zoe looked up, her eyes bright despite the hour. How was it? Playing for all those rich people? Lily slipped off her shoes with a grateful sigh. Nerve-wracking. But good, I think. She pulled out Dr. Chen's card and set it on the table. This happened. Zoe picked up the card, reading it quickly, her eyes widening. The Westridge Foundation? Lily, they're like the biggest arts patrons in the city. What did they want? They invited me to perform. In their showcase for new artists? That's amazing. Zoe jumped up, nearly spilling her tea. You have to do it. Lily went to the refrigerator, pulling out leftovers from yesterday's dinner. It's not that simple. I haven't seriously practiced in years. I'm not performance ready. But you could be, Zoe insisted. You have 4 months, right? That's plenty of time. And when would I practice? Between lunch and dinner shifts? In the middle of the night? Lily shook her head. The community center piano is fine for brushing up for background music, but for a real performance. Zoe bit her lip. You could use the practice rooms at my school. Ms. Taylor said you're welcome anytime. During school hours. After school. I have my lessons with her on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but the rooms are available most afternoons until 5. Lily sat down at the table, suddenly exhausted. Even if I had a place to practice, there's still the matter of time. And money. My shifts at Bellini's barely cover our rent and your lessons. Mr. Powell offered to let me play for events. Fewer serving shifts, maybe better pay. She rubbed her eyes. That might help, but it's still not enough time to prepare for a serious performance. Zoe was quiet for a moment, tracing patterns on the tabletop with her finger. What if I stopped lessons for a while? Absolutely not. Lily's voice was firm. You're making incredible progress. Ms. Taylor says you could apply for scholarships next year if you keep it up. But you're the real talent in this family, Zoe said softly. You always have been. I'm just... Okay. Lily reached across the table and took her sister's hand. That's not true. And even if it were, it doesn't matter. You love music. That's enough reason to keep studying it. So do you. Zoe squeezed her hand. You think I don't hear you humming all the time? Or tapping rhythms on every surface? You've been half dead for years and now you're coming back to life. The words hit Lily harder than she expected. Had she been half dead? The past few years had been about survival. Working enough hours to keep their small household afloat after their mother's death. Making sure Zoe stayed in school and had at least some of the opportunities Lily had lost. I'm just being practical, Lily said finally. Dreams are expensive, so is giving them up, Zoe countered. I've watched you do it for 3 years. Before Lily could respond, her phone buzzed with a text. It was Rita. Powell just texted staff. Henderson booked private party next Friday. Requested you specifically for piano. Better pay than waitressing. You in? Lily showed the message to Zoe, who grinned triumphantly. See? The universe is sending you a sign. The universe doesn't send texts. No, but rich guys with connections do. Zoe pointed to Dr. Chen's card. This is your chance, Lily. Please don't throw it away. The next morning, gritty-eyed from too little sleep, Lily called the number on Dr. Chen's card. To her surprise, the director herself answered. Dr. Chen? This is Lily Parker. From the restaurant last night. Ah, the pianist. I was hoping you'd call. Her voice was warm but businesslike. Have you considered our showcase? Lily took a deep breath. I have. I'm interested, but I need to be honest about my situation. I haven't performed seriously in years. I don't have regular access to a proper instrument for practice, and my work schedule is complicated. There was a pause on the other end. Those are practical concerns, not artistic ones. Do you want to perform again, Ms. Parker? The question was so direct that Lily found herself answering with unexpected honesty. Yes, I think I do. Then let's address the practical concerns. The Westridge Foundation has practice facilities available to our artists. As for your schedule, that's for you to manage. But I believe Mr. Henderson may already be creating some opportunities there. Lily thought of Henderson's text to Mr. Powell. Not a coincidence, then. Why? She asked suddenly. Why are you doing this? You heard me play for less than an hour. Dr. Chen chuckled softly. Ms. Parker, in my position, I hear many technically proficient musicians. What I heard in your original composition was something rarer, a distinct voice. That deserves to be developed, she paused. And frankly, part of our mission is to support artists who face practical barriers to pursuing their work. Lily found herself gripping the phone tightly. I'll need to work out some details. My sister's music lessons, my job, of course. The showcase is April 15th. We typically feature 3 artists, each presenting a 20-minute program. Would that time frame work for you? April 15th, 4 months away. Enough time to prepare if she practiced seriously. If she could access a proper piano. If she could arrange her work schedule. Yes, Lily heard herself say. That would work. Excellent. I'll have my assistant email you the details. Dr. Chen's voice softened slightly. And Ms. Parker? Don't be afraid to reach for what was once yours. Talent doesn't disappear. It just waits for the right moment to re-emerge. After hanging up, Lily sat on the edge of her bed, phone still in hand. Had she really just agreed to perform in a showcase? The thought sent a rush of both terror and exhilaration through her. She texted Rita back. I'm in for Friday. Then she opened her closet and rummaged through old boxes until she found what she was looking for. A folder of sheet music, dog-eared and yellowed at the edges, filled with compositions she had written during her conservatory days. It was time to remember who she had been, and perhaps discover who she might still become. The next 2 months passed in a blur for Lily. Her life fell into a new rhythm, morning shifts at the restaurant, afternoons practicing at the Westridge Foundation studios, and Friday nights playing for special events at Bellini's. The routine was exhausting but exhilarating. You look tired, Rita commented one morning as they set up for lunch service, but in a good way. Like you're tired from doing something you love. Lily smiled as she folded napkins. That's exactly how it feels. Mr. Powell had been surprisingly supportive of her new schedule. The truth was, having Lily play for special events was good for business. Word had spread about the Waitress pianist, and private bookings had increased. He'd even had business cards printed that featured the restaurant logo on one side and Lily's name with piano, performance on the other. For when guests ask how to request you specifically, he'd explained, handing her a small stack. It was a far cry from the skeptical manager who had reluctantly let her fill in months ago. The most unexpected change, however, was in how Lily saw herself. Each day at the Westridge Foundation's practice rooms, surrounded by framed concert posters and the sounds of other musicians working, she felt pieces of her old identity returning, not exactly as they had been, but transformed by the years between. Today, she was meeting with Dr. Chen to discuss her program for the showcase. As Lily walked through the Foundation's offices, she no longer felt like an imposter. She belonged here, among these people who spoke the language of music as fluently as she did. Dr. Chen's office was small but elegant, with large windows overlooking a courtyard. A baby grand piano took up one corner, not for show, Lily had learned, but because Dr. Chen still played daily. Lily, come in, Dr. Chen smiled, gesturing to a chair. How's the preparation going? Good, I think. Lily sat, placing her folder of music on her lap. I've decided on my program. Excellent. Let's hear what you've chosen. Lily opened her folder. I want to start with the Chopin Nocturne in E-flat major. It's well known enough to put the audience at ease. Dr. Chen nodded approvingly. A beautiful opener. And then? Then a Debussy piece, Reflets dans l'eau. It bridges nicely into my own compositions. And those will be? 2 pieces I wrote during my time at Eastman, reworked a bit. And then, Lily hesitated. A new piece I'm finishing now. It's called Return. Dr. Chen's eyes lit up with interest. New work? That's wonderful. May I ask what inspired it? Lily thought for a moment. It's about finding your way back to something you thought was lost. Not to the same place exactly, but to somewhere that feels both familiar and completely new. Like returning to music after years away. Something like that. Dr. Chen made a note in her planner. I look forward to hearing it. Your rehearsal time in the performance hall is scheduled for next Tuesday. Will that work with your restaurant schedule? Yes, Mr. Powell has been great about giving me Tuesdays off. Lily smiled slightly. He's coming to the showcase, actually. Him and some of the staff. I'm glad to hear it. Dr. Chen looked at Lily thoughtfully. You know, we haven't discussed what comes after the showcase. Lily's hands tightened on her folder. I've been trying not to think that far ahead. Perhaps it's time to start. The foundation offers a limited number of grants each year to promising artists. The stipend isn't large, but it would provide some financial security while you develop your work. She paused. There's also a partial scholarship program for musicians returning to complete their education. The words hung in the air between them. Return to school? The thought had seemed impossible for so long that Lily could barely process it. I don't know if I can, she said finally. My sister. Bring her to your next practice session, Dr. Chen suggested. I'd like to meet her. From what you've told me, she sounds quite talented herself. Later that evening, Lily sat with Zoe at their small kitchen table, picking at a late dinner after her practice session. Dr. Chen mentioned scholarships today, Lily said carefully, for returning students. Zoe looked up from her homework, eyes widening. To finish your degree? Lily, that would be amazing. It's complicated. The scholarship would only cover part of the tuition, and even if I keep the weekend gigs at the restaurant, it would be tight. But possible? Zoe pressed Lily's side. Maybe, if we moved to a cheaper apartment, if you got a part-time job after school, if nothing unexpected happened. Let's do it. Zoe closed her textbook decisively. I can tutor middle school kids in piano. Ms. Taylor already asked if I'd be interested. Zoe, I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm offering. Zoe reached across the table and grabbed Lily's hand. Don't you see? This is what Mom would have wanted. She always said your music wasn't just for you. It was for everyone who got to hear it. Lily felt a lump form in her throat at the mention of their mother. She said the same about your playing, and I'm not giving that up. But we both know I'm not you, Lily. I love music, but for me it's joy, not necessity. Zoe squeezed her hand. For you, it's like breathing. The truth of her sister's words hit Lily hard. These past months of returning to serious practice had been like coming up for air after years underwater. Each day at the piano felt like reclaiming a vital piece of herself. Dr. Chen wants to meet you, Lily said, changing the subject slightly. She asked me to bring you to my next practice. Zoe's eyes grew round. The Dr. Chen? Executive Director of the Westridge Foundation, Dr. Chen? That's the one. Why does she want to meet me? Lily shrugged. She's interested in young musicians, and I may have mentioned how good you are. Now I'm nervous, Zoe groaned. What if she asked me to play something? Then you'll play something, Lily said simply, and you'll be great. The following Saturday, Lily brought Zoe to her practice session at the foundation. The teenager tried to appear casual, but Lily noticed how her sister's eyes widened at the grand pianos, the practice rooms with perfect acoustics, the signed photos of famous musicians on the walls. This place is incredible, Zoe whispered as they walked down a hallway lined with practice rooms, each filled with the sound of someone perfecting their craft. You get to practice here every day? Not every day, but often enough. Lily led her to a large corner room with windows overlooking the city. This is usually my space. Dr. Chen was waiting for them, elegant as always in a simple blue dress. She greeted Zoe warmly. Your sister speaks highly of your playing. Do you enjoy your studies? Zoe nodded, suddenly shy. Yes, very much. Would you mind playing something for me? I'm always interested in hearing young musicians. Zoe shot a panicked look at Lily, who nodded encouragingly. Go ahead. Just play what you've been working on with Ms. Taylor. Hesitantly, Zoe sat at the piano. After a moment to collect herself, she began to play a Bach invention. Her technique wasn't flawless, There were a few stumbles and hesitations, but her musicality was evident in the way she shaped each phrase. Dr. Chen listened intently, her expression thoughtful. When Zoe finished, she nodded approvingly. Very nice. How long have you been studying? About 6 years, Zoe answered. But more seriously in the last 3. Since our mom died, Lily added quietly. Zoe's teacher has been wonderful about working with our budget. I see. Dr. Chen looked between the sisters. The foundation also has a youth program, you know. Classes, workshops, mentoring. There's an audition process, but based on what I just heard, I think you'd be a strong candidate, Zoe. Zoe's eyes widened. Really? The program includes scholarship support for private lessons, Dr. Chen continued. Quite substantial support, actually. The implication was clear. If Zoe were accepted into the youth program, the financial burden of her lessons would be lifted, making it more feasible for Lily to consider returning to school. Later, as they rode the bus home, Zoe could barely contain her excitement. Do you think she meant it? About me being a strong candidate? Dr. Chen doesn't say things she doesn't mean, Lily replied. But the audition would still be competitive. I'll practice extra hard. Zoe's face grew serious. This could change everything, Lily, for both of us. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. First, I have to get through the showcase. Then we can think about what comes next. The day of the rehearsal in the actual performance hall arrived, bringing with it a fresh wave of nerves. The Westridge Foundation's performance space was smaller than a formal concert hall, but far more impressive than anywhere Lily had played recently. Perfect acoustics, a Steinway grand piano that had been played by renowned pianists, and seating for 200 people. As Lily walked onto the stage for her rehearsal, the emptiness of the hall seemed to emphasize how exposed she would be during the actual performance. This wasn't background music at a restaurant. Here, people would be listening, really listening to every note. Her first run-through was shaky. Her fingers felt stiff, and she missed notes in passages she usually played effortlessly. Take a breath, the stage manager called from the back of the hall. Try again when you're ready. Lily closed her eyes, forcing herself to slow her breathing. She thought of all the hours of practice, of Zoe's belief in her, of Dr. Chen's quiet confidence. She thought of playing at Bellini's, how the music had gradually awakened something she had tried to bury. When she opened her eyes, she placed her hands on the keys with new resolve. This time, the music flowed more naturally, each piece building on the last to tell a story. Her story. As she reached the final piece, Return, she felt herself getting lost in its emotion. She had composed it during late nights after restaurant shifts, pouring into it all the complex feelings of finding her way back to music. The theme began simply, hesitantly, then grew in complexity and confidence, finally returning to a transformed version of the opening melody. When the last note faded, there was a moment of silence, then applause from the back of the hall. Lily looked up, startled. It wasn't just the stage manager. Dr. Chen was there, along with the other 2 artists who would be performing in the showcase. That was beautiful, said one of them, a violinist named Thomas, especially your original piece. The emotional arc is perfect, added Nadia, a cellist. You take the audience on a journey. Their words warmed Lily, dissolving some of the doubt that had crept in during her shaky start. These weren't just polite compliments, they were the genuine reactions of fellow musicians who understood what she was trying to achieve. As she gathered her music, Dr. Chen approached the stage. I received a call from Eastman today, she said. They're very interested in having you return to complete your degree. Your former professor speaks quite highly of your potential. Lily's hands stilled on her sheet music. You contacted them? With your permission, yes. From our earlier conversations, I gathered you might be interested. Dr. Chen smiled slightly. The path is open if you choose to take it. The path is open. The words echoed in Lily's mind as she made her way home. For so long, she had seen only closed doors, insurmountable obstacles. Now possibilities were emerging, not guarantees, but chances. Real chances to reclaim the future she had once imagined. As she unlocked the door to their apartment, Lily felt a strange lightness. Whatever happened at the showcase, whether she returned to school or found another way forward, she had already accomplished something significant. She had found her way back to music. And music, faithful as an old friend, had been waiting for her all along. The day of the Westridge Foundation showcase arrived with crisp spring sunshine and a sky so blue it seemed unreal. Lily stood at her apartment window, watching early morning light spread across the city. She'd barely slept, her mind cycling through her program, imagining her fingers on the keys, hearing the music in her head. "You're going to wear out the floor with all that pacing," Zoe said, appearing in the doorway still in her pajamas. "Have you had breakfast?" Lily shook her head. "Not hungry." "Too bad." Zoe headed for the kitchen. "You're eating anyway. Can't have you fainting on stage." Despite her protests, Lily found herself sitting at their small kitchen table while Zoe made toast and scrambled eggs. "Nervous?" Zoe asked, sliding a plate in front of her. "Terrified," Lily admitted. "It's been so long since I performed for a real audience. What if I freeze? What if I forget everything?" "You won't," Zoe said with the absolute confidence of a 16-year-old. "You've practiced until your fingers could play this program in your sleep." She sat across from Lily with her own plate. "Besides, you've already done the hard part." "What's that?" "Finding your way back." Zoe took a bite of toast. "The rest is just details." Lily smiled despite her nerves. When had her little sister become so wise? The morning passed in a blur of final preparations. Lily went through her pieces one last time on their mother's old upright piano, not trying to perfect anything but simply reminding her fingers of the journey they would take later. Then she showered and dressed in the simple black dress she had purchased for the occasion. Not flashy, but elegant and comfortable for playing. Rita arrived just before noon, insisting on helping Lily with her hair. "You musicians never know what to do with yourselves except for the instrument part," she teased, pinning Lily's hair into a simple but elegant style. "There, now you look like the star you are." "Hardly a star," Lily protested, but she was touched by her friend's support. "The whole restaurant crew is coming tonight," Rita said. "Mr. Powell is closing early. Said it's not every day one of his staff performs at the Westridge Foundation. That's really nice of him. He's proud of you. We all are." Rita squeezed her shoulder. "Though I'm going to miss our regular waitress chats when you're off being famous." "I'll still be serving tables tomorrow," Lily reminded her. "For now," Rita winked. "But not forever. And that's as it should be." By mid-afternoon, it was time to head to the performance hall. Dr. Chen had arranged for the 3 featured artists to have access to practice rooms for last-minute preparation before the evening show. Zoe and Rita promised to arrive early and save seats for the restaurant crew. At the foundation, Lily found the backstage area buzzing with quiet activity. Stagehands checked lighting, the piano tuner made final adjustments to the Steinway, and the other performers, Thomas with his violin and Nadia with her cello, warmed up in their assigned rooms. Lily settled into her practice room, playing through fragments of her program. Not to practice, but to calm her nerves. The piano felt responsive under her touch, and gradually, her anxiety began to transform into a different kind of energy. The focused anticipation that had always preceded her best performances during her conservatory days. There was a soft knock at the door, and Dr. Chen entered. "How are you feeling?" "Ready, I think," Lily said, surprised to discover it was true. "I have something for you." Dr. Chen handed her a small envelope. "A letter came for you at the foundation office." Lily opened it curiously. Inside was a note on Eastman Conservatory letterhead. "Dear Ms. Parker, we are pleased to confirm that the Scholarship Committee has approved your application for the Returning Artist Program. This award, combined with the Westridge Foundation grant, will cover 75% of your tuition costs for the completion of your degree beginning this fall. Your talent and perseverance have impressed us greatly, and we look forward to welcoming you back to Eastman. Sincerely, Professor Williams." Lily looked up, stunned. "But I haven't even performed yet." "How?" "The committee reviewed recordings of your practice sessions," Dr. Chen explained, "and Professor Williams has apparently followed your progress through Mr. Henderson. The showcase tonight is important, but it isn't an audition. It's a celebration of the journey you've already made." Lily's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know what to say." "You don't need to say anything," Dr. Chen smiled. "Just play. The music will speak for you." As the time for the performance approached, Lily felt a strange calm settle over her. The path ahead wasn't certain. There would still be financial challenges, practical obstacles, difficult decisions. But for the first time in years, She could see a future that included her music, not just as something she once did or something she squeezed in between other responsibilities, but as the center of her life. The performance hall filled gradually with an eclectic mix of people: arts patrons in formal attire, music students, foundation donors, and a boisterous group from Bellini's, who took up an entire row near the front. Lily spotted Zoe and Rita sitting with Mr. Powell and several of her restaurant colleagues. Backstage, the three featured artists waited quietly. Thomas would perform first, then Nadia, with Lily closing the program. As the lights dimmed and the artistic director welcomed the audience, Lily listened to the expectant hush that fell over the hall. Thomas played beautifully, his violin soaring through Bach and Paganini. Then came Nadia, whose cello sang with rich mellow tones through a program that ranged from classical to contemporary. The audience responded warmly to both, and then it was Lily's turn. Walking onto the stage felt like stepping into a dream, the lights both blinding and comforting, the audience a shadowy presence beyond the glare. The Steinway waited, its polished surface reflecting the stage lights like a black mirror. Lily took her seat at the piano, adjusted the bench, and placed her hands in her lap. She took one deep breath, then lifted her hands to the keys. The Chopin nocturne flowed from her fingers like water, gentle and familiar. She felt the audience settle into the music, relaxing into its beauty. When she transitioned to Debussy, the Impressionist harmonies created a bridge to her own compositions, changing the mood subtly, preparing the listeners for something new. Her original pieces from her conservatory days came next. They were more technically demanding, showcasing her skill but also her musical voice. Thoughtful, sometimes playful, with unexpected harmonic turns that resolved in satisfying ways. Lily could feel the audience's attention sharpening, their engagement deepening, and then, for the final piece, Return. She paused briefly, gathering herself. This piece was her story, the loss, the struggle, the rediscovery. She had poured everything into its composition, all the late nights at the restaurant, the exhaustion, the moments of doubt, but also the joy of reconnection, the hope for the future, the gratitude for second chances. From the first note, Lily knew this performance was different from any she had given before. There was a clarity to her playing, a directness that came from truly understanding what the music was saying. Each phrase spoke of her journey. Each harmony reflected the complexity of finding her way back to her truest self. The music built gradually, growing in confidence and power, finally reaching a moment of emotional climax that felt like breaking through a barrier. The moment she had decided to take her place at the piano again, to claim her right to create beauty in the world. Then the piece returned to its opening theme, but transformed now, resolute and peaceful. As the final notes faded into silence, Lily kept her hands over the keys, unwilling to break the spell. The hall was absolutely quiet. Then from somewhere in the darkness, a single person began to applaud. Others joined immediately, and suddenly the entire hall erupted in enthusiastic appreciation. Lily stood, blinking in the stage lights, and took a bow. As she looked out into the audience, she could make out the front row now. Zoe was on her feet, clapping wildly, tears streaming down her face. Next to her, Rita and the restaurant crew cheered and whistled. Mr. Powell looked surprisingly emotional, clapping with genuine pride. In that moment, Lily understood something fundamental. Music had never really left her. It had waited patiently, through all the hard years, all the double shifts and tight budgets and deferred dreams. It had waited for her to find her way back. After the performance, the lobby buzzed with excitement. People clustered around the three artists, offering congratulations and appreciation. Lily found herself surrounded by well-wishers, including several of Bellini's regular customers who had come specifically to hear her play. "That last piece," one woman said, clasping Lily's hand. "It was extraordinary, so moving. Will you be recording an album?" someone else asked. "I'd buy it immediately." Before Lily could answer, she felt a small hand slip into hers. Zoe had pushed through the crowd to reach her. "You were amazing," her sister said simply, eyes still shining with tears. Mr. Powell approached next, looking slightly out of place in his restaurant manager's suit among the arts patrons. "That wasn't background music," he said with a shake of his head. "That was..." He seemed at a loss for words. I know, Lily said, smiling. But I might still be available for special events. At least until the fall. Fall? I'm going back to school. To finish my degree. His eyebrows shot up, but then he nodded. Good. That's where you belong. Later that night, after the crowds had dispersed and the excitement had ebbed, Lily and Zoe sat at their kitchen table sharing a late-night snack of leftover cake that Rita had insisted they take home from the reception. So, Zoe said, licking frosting from her fork, Eastman in the fall. If we can make it work financially. Even with the scholarships, it'll be tight. We'll make it work, Zoe said confidently. I got an email from Dr. Chen tonight. The Foundation's youth program auditions are next month and she's already put my name on the list. Lily looked at her sister with surprise. She didn't mention that to me. I think she wanted it to be my thing, not an extension of yours. Zoe's expression grew serious. That's important, you know. That we each have our own path. When did you get so smart? Must run in the family, Zoe grinned. Speaking of family, I was thinking about Mom tonight. During your performance? Me too, Lily said softly. She would have been so proud. Not just of how beautifully you played, but of how you found your way back. How you never really gave up. Lily reached across the table and took her sister's hand. I had help. I still do. Outside their window, the city lights twinkled against the night sky. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. There were still details to work out, preparations to make, a life to rearrange around this rekindled purpose. But tonight, in the quiet aftermath of triumph, Lily simply savored the feeling of having found her way home to music. And somewhere in the back of her mind, new melodies were already beginning to form.